Welcome to Ask Win, everyone. Okay, as you know, I am a teacher slash slowly stepping away from the education field to pursue my true calling in journalism. And yes, this has something to do with today's episode. And the reason why I say that is because why not consider your work your passion? That means you go to work, it doesn't feel like work, you love it every day of your life. And I am pursuing a degree in journalism to be a full-time writer, actually, hint, hint, not get a full-time job in the journalism field necessarily, unless someone calls me and gives me a good offer. And so I have been following this podcast for about a good couple months now, and I heard this man speak on Chris of Getting the Work to Work. There's another podcast that you should listen to. And I'm going to let Mr. Mac Prichard take it away of finding your dream job. And yes, I'm slowly finding my dream job. And so, Mac, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay, well, thank you for being on the for inviting me on the show, Win. And I do publish a website. It's called maxlist.org. It's an online community for people who want to find work that matters. We're based in Portland, Oregon, but we serve people all across the country. And in fact, through our podcast, which we publish every Wednesday, it's called Find Your Dream Job, we reach people all around the world. And what we do, Win, is help people find work they can love, and there's a need for that because so many of us just haven't taken the time to learn how to look for work. It's a skill that we all have to master if we're going to have great careers and get to do work that we enjoy. And so we help meet that need through articles on our website. We've got some books, online courses, and our weekly podcast. And I feel very strongly about this because I've been out of work myself twice in my career, and I've always wanted to have work with purpose, and I think everybody does. So that's what MaxList does, and so I'm excited to talk to you today about how to look for work you can love.
I am too, and as you guys know, I am actually in a podcasting class. So part of this interview is going to go in my final project. Yes, I said my final project for my podcasting class because I am very lucky that I have already paid off one of my student loans. The other one I'm trying to pay off myself without asking help from my family, even though they love me and they can help me. But I want you guys to find the work you love to help you pay off your student loans, because God knows we all have student loans that we're trying to pay off. So why not pay off the student loans and do work you love? So I'm just going to throw that caveat in here that part of this interview is going to be in my final communications class project. So, okay. Next, I know that finding a job is a full-time job in itself. So how can we take the pain and put the fun back in finding a full-time job or a part-time job? Because I know that looking for a job can be painful. I was fortunate enough to leave my job in 2009 when the economic crash happened, and then I was fortunate enough, well, not fortunate enough, but I did have a life-changing event, and through that life-changing event, I actually found my job, believe it or not, and I found my job originally on my bicycle, and then which is got on Tuesday, I was riding by my boss's house and called over and asked them for a job, and they said yes, and then I had a life-changing event. 10 days after that life-changing event, I applied to my teaching job, which I still hold after 10 years. So explain to us how to put the fun back into finding a job.
Well, I think it begins by understanding how the hiring system works. And most jobs are filled by word of mouth. They're not posted on job boards, and in fact, I run a job board. If you visit our website, you'll see typically about 500 jobs a month, and I'm very proud of the value that we offer employers who post there. But the reason most jobs are filled by word of mouth and are part of what's called the hidden job market is because of a couple of principles that I think it's important for your listeners to understand if they're not familiar with them. One is that hiring managers hire people they know and trust. And the other is if they don't know a candidate directly, they turn to people they trust for recommendations. And the reason hiring managers do this is not because there's a conspiracy out there to only hire certain kinds of people who went to certain fancy schools or have an in with the in-law of the hiring manager. It's because of hiring managers are trying to manage risk. And everybody who has been in the workforce for a while knows how disruptive it is when a hire doesn't work out. And it can, you might spend for a professional position 3 or 6 months looking for a candidate. Then it takes 3 to 6 months to make sure that it is going to be a good fit. And if it isn't, gosh, you got to start all over again. So that's
yes,
you've invested 6 or 12 months in something that didn't work out. So to manage that risk, that's why hiring managers turn to people they know and trust or to people who are recommended to them. Now, once you understand that, then your challenge as a job seeker, whether you're a new graduate or someone in mid-career or perhaps a baby boomer like me, your challenge is to become part of the conversations that are happening every day about hiring. And hiring managers are reaching out to colleagues, friends, family, professional acquaintances, and they're asking for recommendations. And you can insert yourself in those conversations by doing one or all of three things. You can do what are called informational interviews, which are conversations with people about hiring in your field. You can go to industry events in your sector. Every occupation has a professional association of some kind. And the third thing you can do is volunteer. Get out in the community and connect with others. If you do one or all of these three things and you do it in a strategic, focused way, you'll start finding out about these so-called hidden jobs, these jobs that are filled by word of mouth. And is it fun or not? Well, that really depends on you. I'd like going to networking events for fun, but I will be the first to admit I'm kind of an oddball. But the real fun, I think, comes from when you find work that you can enjoy and feel good about doing and even love. And I think that is indeed fun. It takes hard work to get a position like that. But you think about it, we spend about 2,000 hours a year if we're working a 40-hour week in the workplace. We're spending more time with our bosses and our colleagues than we are with our friends and family. So we want to have work that can be engaging and rewarding, and we got to pay our bills, including our student loans, but we can do work that makes a difference too.
Yes, we can. And it's so funny because I work with a non-profit with an exoskeleton robot, and one of our now he's not a volunteer anymore. One of our at the time volunteers volunteered for this program. Turns out the director gave him a paid position, and because he loved his spunk and needed help. And I'm like, okay, that's one way to get a job, volunteer at a non-profit, and then you might be surprised what they might ask you to do, and sometimes it will be paid.
Yes, sometimes paid volunteer positions can lead to paid jobs. Not always. I'm a big believer in volunteering in order to acquire a new skill, maybe work on a personal interest or passion, or be of service to the community that where I live and work. Whatever your reason for volunteering, it has professional benefits too. And I wouldn't encourage your listeners to go after a volunteer opportunity in the hope that, particularly at a nonprofit, that it might lead to.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't either.
It happens occasionally, but that's not. There are more effective ways to find jobs with nonprofits or in the private sector than just volunteering.
Now, I know you answered this question several times on your podcast, but for my listeners who haven't listened to Find Your Dream Job yet, you people should. It's an excellent podcast. But I am a little concerned because I am now myself looking for jobs in the journalism industry. And I actually have a call today for a job I applied for in the journalism industry. And I actually have a call with a recruiter to see if I want to take this job. But my question is, when we apply on Indeed or Monster.com, are human beings actually looking at the resume? Because I know you did an episode, I think, about do human beings actually look at the resumes or robots look at the resumes? Should we be concerned about these robot computers looking at all resumes, or how do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, thanks for the shout-out for our podcast. That's very kind of you, Wynn. And to your question about resumes and how they're reviewed when you apply for a job, particularly with a large employer, there is a technology called applicant tracking systems. The acronym is ATS. And employers, both large and small, increasingly use these tracking systems to both receive and route resumes within their hiring process. And so it's software, and it's growing in popularity. And again, it's a system, so you should understand how it works. And if you are applying for a position with an employer that uses an applicant tracking system, the first thing you want to do is make sure you follow all the instructions. And so whatever documents are requested, be sure to provide them. Second, make sure, and you should do this with any application, that all of your materials are error-free, because that's one of the most common reasons, whether it's done with software or by human review, that applications are rejected. Because think about it for a moment. The challenge, if a job attracts 50, 75, 100 applications, the challenge is you got to whittle that down to the 10 or 15 that you may actually talk to through a phone interview, and then eventually invite some smaller number in for a final interview. So make sure your application materials are error-free. I think, don't be discouraged that companies are using these systems. Understand how they work and how you can put your best foot forward when you're submitting your materials, but also step back and I would say this to any candidate, be clear about what you want and where you want to go. And if you know the answers to those questions, I find most candidates have a clear idea of the kind of work they want to do, and they usually have a short list of companies or nonprofits or agencies where they'd like to work. And so I would say to listeners, if that's the case, don't wait for a job to post up on a pop-up rather on a website at the company where you want to work before you have any contact with that employer. Start developing relationships now, and you can do that through what are called informational interviews. These are business meetings of 20 to 30 minutes in length where you can reach out to someone and ask them what it's like to work at that company, what the employer looks for. And when you do that, several things will happen. You'll get great insights into what managers are thinking about when they're hiring candidates. You'll also start to build relationships with the managers and the people inside that company, and they will think of you when opportunities come up. And even if a position is formally posted at that company, when you apply through the front door, you'll have a back door that you can go through. You can reach out to your contact and say, well, hey, just a heads up, as you know, your company is hiring for this position. I just sent in an application. Appreciate any insights you might have. Would also be grateful if you'd put in a word for me. And that can help you move much farther along in the process and get out of the clutches of the robots and get in front of real people who are making the decisions.
Yeah, and I know, and I'll try to trick with my skill. I know sometimes my college, where I'm at now, which is the Academy of Arts in San Francisco, huge shout out to them. They've been wonderful, by the way. I know that sometimes they hire alumni. Sometimes. So that may be a good option if you want to get your foot in the door in teaching at a university level, and you have gone to that college. Sometimes they may be looking for a teacher to teach.
I'm so glad you brought that up. If you are a graduate of a university, you've got a built-in national, even global network of graduates who you can reach out to when you're looking for work, and you can contact these people through your alumni database, and you don't want to ask them for a job, but you can, again, have one of those informational interviews we talked about a moment ago. But if these graduates are working at companies where you want to be, and you start building those relationships, the fact that you went to the same college isn't going to get you the job, but it will get your phone call returned or get you a meeting when you're doing your networking, when you're doing your job hunting. I had the good fortune to go to two great universities when my undergraduate degree is from the University of Iowa, and I went to a graduate program at Harvard where I got a master's degree. And at Harvard, they teach us to do this. They teach you how to connect with other alums, how to have conversations about your job search, how to ask for help when you're looking for work. We weren't taught how to do that at Iowa when I was an undergraduate, and that may have changed. But I'll tell you, I hear regularly from Harvard graduates who want to talk about their job search. I don't hear from Iowa grads, and there were so many bright, accomplished people who went to Iowa. So it's you don't have to have gone to an Ivy League school to network like an Ivy Leaguer, and if because whatever university you attended, it produced a lot of accomplished leaders who can be helpful to you when you are looking for work.
It's so funny you say that, because I'm noticing at the Academy of Arts, they are not only preparing their students for a future in let's say, journalism or game design, because I know they offer those two degree programs. And at my original college, which was a community college, they did not do anything as preparing their graduates for the workforce. They didn't even tell me that I could get a bachelor's degree in education, let alone preparing me for the workforce. Geez, I was thrown into the workforce in education as I was getting this degree. So big difference when the college teaches you actually how to use your degree in the workforce. I definitely agree with that, Mac, but you still have to work for the job. You still have to work at the bottom to work your way up.
You're absolutely right, and I do want to add that in the end, we're all in charge of our own careers. Nobody at the Career Services Office, whatever university we might have attended, is going to figure this out for us. We've got to decide what we want to do. We've got to decide where we want to do that work. And candidly, when I was at graduate school at Harvard, I did go by the Career Services Office, and the people there were fantastic, and they had great advice and coaching. But I had colleagues in that class who didn't go by. And they didn't stop in, and they didn't take advantage of those services. So I think it really, again, it's up to us individually to take charge of our careers, and nobody's going to do this for us. The good news is, whatever college you attended, or if you didn't go to college, these are all skills you can learn, because information about job hunting and career management has never been more widely available. And it's whether you look online or if you're a graduate of a university, you can go back typically to your Career Services Office and they'll help grads. Or you can go to your state employment department office. They have terrific resources no matter what state you live in about how to look for work. But it starts with us, and each of us has to take charge.
Now, unfortunately, and I don't know about gender, unfortunately, my state employment career office is a little bit wonky, and I've only been there once, and that was to meet with my vocational rehab counselor, my officer too, to meet her originally. Other than that, we do phone meetings and meet off site, because my career office is sitting in a dead mall. Thank you very much. That mall is dead and doors are moving out. So when you say career offices at the state level, can you contact them, or do you have to go meet with them in person? Because a lot of career offices are sitting in, I'm not kidding when I say this, dead malls. I'm not kidding, dead shopping malls, which is a little creepy that the Colorado career office is sitting in a dead shopping mall. That gives me the heebie-jeebies. So, do you have to go meet with them in person, or can you have a phone interview, or just look on their website?
I would start by looking at the website, and whatever the state, I think you'll find a good introduction to the services that particular state's employment office offers. You'll also likely find a list of the offices that are where you can go to meet someone, and I expect you'll find information about how to set up an appointment. It's not uncommon. It varies from state to state, but it's not uncommon for these offices to offer workshops or classes on resume writing or interviews, and again, you'll likely find information about these services on the website and information about how you could sign up to attend those sessions. And you'll also learn whether or not phone appointments are available.
Yeah, so I'm sorry you can't ask me because it varies state to state, but my voc rehab, and those of you who are listening with a disability should really look into vocational rehab because, and I will tell you this right now, my voc rehab, and I know several other people who have got their wishes too, my voc rehab not only helps you find a job if you're disabled, but they occasionally help you pay for your program, and that's what voc rehab is helping you do, because as we all know, college is expensive, and sending myself back to college, even though FAFSA is wonderful, there's only so much FAFSA you can take. So I asked voc rehab, I said, look, I have 2 loans and a grant set up, and their response to me, moment one, was maybe we can help you pay for your program, and that's what they did. Now, it's a small stipend, but that's what they did. So you have to look on the rocks to find this all out. I mean, I thought voc rehab was just going to help me find a tutor. I didn't know that they were going to pay for my program. I walked in wanting help within my classes. I didn't know that they could pay for my program. And you might want to ask your employers, and then I'll ask Matt if he agrees, if they can give you a stipend for your program. They might be able to give you a stipend for your program. How would you go approaching your employer if you wanted to go back to school and couldn't afford it? Do you just point blank ask them, or do you talk to your boss? I mean, I asked my boss, and they, of course, said no, and that's only because I'm not in the teaching field. But if I was in a different field, they probably would have done it.
Well, a couple points. First of all, I'm glad you brought up the voc rehab programs that are available for people with disabilities. And there are other government programs that can help people in different circumstances. I know there are training and education programs for people who have been affected by overseas trade, and so you want to be an informed consumer. If you think you want to, when you do reach out to these state employment offices, ask them about those services to see what you might be eligible for. Your question went about education. Some employers do provide help with getting a college degree, and they typically tend to be bigger employers who might pay for graduate degrees or other educational credentials that are going to be helpful to both the employee and the company. And you just got to ask your boss. And if you're at a big company, get familiar with the education reimbursement practices of that employer, because there could be an opportunity to significantly reduce your educational costs, and you want to take full advantage of that.
Yeah. Yes. And what I've found through voc rehab is sending me back to school, which journalism has always been a dream of mine. So sending me back to school was cheap as compared to me doing it on my own. But FAFSA helps too, and FAFSA is the United States need-based Pell Grant, and they also provide loans too. But asking your employer to do it or asking a vocational rehab to do it is the best option out there, because then you're not relying on the debt of student loans. Thank you very much. And so, Mac, I just wanted to ask you one more quick question. What is your best advice to someone who's listening to this podcast right now and is sitting in the cubicle and wants to be in a different job or is, God forbid, unemployed? I mean, we're still bouncing back from an economic crisis that happened in 2008, 2009. And so I just want to help you guys understand the job market. And while I walk through this journey of transferring careers myself, big time, geez, I never thought I would be transferring careers myself. So what would be your best advice back?
Well, number one, don't wait to be picked, Win. So many of us, and I did this earlier in my career too, when we think about job hunting, we think the way to do it is to look online every day at a certain number of websites and apply for the positions that are published. And you should do some of that. But as I mentioned earlier, most jobs are never posted anywhere, and there are estimates out there that as many as 80% of all open jobs are filled by word of mouth, or again called part of what is called the hidden job market. So if that 80% estimate is correct, think about how you spend your time. And so many job seekers I meet spend 100% of their time looking at job boards. Now, again, I run a job board. I'm very proud of the value it offers, but I strongly encourage your listeners to step away from the computer and get out and talk to people, either through informational interviews, through volunteering, or attending industry events. Don't wait to be picked. And if you need to know what you want to do and where you want to go, and you don't have to wait for a position to pop up. You can find these jobs if you know what you want to accomplish and where you want to work. So you do have to, in addition to not waiting to be picked, you got to do some homework here. You got to know what you want to do and where you want to go. Invest time in that.
No.
Yeah, and I, we've talked about work you can love, work that matters. That doesn't mean working for necessarily a nonprofit or a disaster relief organization. What matters is what goals you've set for yourself personally and professionally. And once you're clear about those goals, and there are a lot of different kinds of jobs out there, but what matters is it a job that you can get excited about, that you can get passionate about? And that could be something in sales, in writing, in computers, whatever the occupation. Get clear about what it is you want, and then go out and start talking to people about that, and you'll start to hear about these hidden jobs, and you'll start to find yourself having conversations with hiring managers about them. But that will only happen if you step away from the computer and don't wait to get picked.
Yeah, that will only happen if you step away from the computer and don't wait to get picked and use your network. And I know that Finding Your Dream Job Max podcast did a couple of great episodes. I mean great, on the power of LinkedIn. And I've found podcast interviews, believe it or not, on LinkedIn and on all over the place, because with the power of the internet now, you don't necessarily have to get picked. You can start a side hustle, and one of the top side hustles out there, and this is why I'm pursuing journalism, is freelance writing. And because people are always looking for good writers, me, myself, I'm always looking for a good writer that can help translate what I'm trying to say. So freelance writing is one of those things you could do from your laptop, and then you can make a career out of it or just leave it as a side hustle. But I will say, and Matt would probably agree with me, once you start the side hustle, make sure that it doesn't impede with your employer, because that could lead to major issues. Luckily, I'm lucky that my side hustle, soon to be full-time business, is not impeding with my employer. And so, Matt, where can people find you, and where can people find the podcast? And then I'm going to let you ask me a couple questions.
Well, people can learn more about our work by visiting maxlist.org, and they can find our podcast. We publish new episodes every Wednesday by visiting maxlist.org/podcast. The name of the show, when I think you mentioned it several times, is Find Your Dream Job, and we're also on iTunes and Stitcher, so we can be found there as well. We do have a book out called Land Your Dream Job Anywhere, and if your listeners are interested, we've set up a special landing page, maxlist.org/askwin, and they can download the first chapter for free there. So those are all great resources.
God. And thank you very much for doing that. You guys should go check out the book, because we need to find jobs that we actually love and don't strive to work every day. And I know you guys have a commute and use me as your entertainment. I know you guys do, because my biggest market for this podcast, believe it or not, is in San Francisco and LA. I haven't had Colorado pick it up yet, but we're working on it. We're working on my home state picking my podcast up. But I know you guys use me on your commute along with many, many other podcasts, and I'm honored to say that my biggest market is in San Francisco and LA. But at the same time, we need to quit doing the dredge commutes and find the work we love.
Well said, Wynn. Well, I would love to ask you some questions if
go ahead.
At that stage of the show. Yeah. As a fellow podcaster, I have to ask, what inspired you to start your show?
When I was in the middle of going through my tragic loss and transferring jobs and doing all that not fun stuff, I wrote a book, which the book is on Amazon, and it could still be found on Amazon. I just updated the cover of that book today, so look for it with a new cover on it. It's called I Come a Win, and it's my journey with cerebral palsy and how I was raised as an able-bodied woman, and I have 45 reviews on it. And so writing a book is the best business card you can get out there. Talking about going to networking events, do an ebook, you guys, and in the class, potential and players, and I can teach you guys how to do an ebook, and Matt can probably teach you guys how to do a book too if you guys want, because business cards are here to stay. Business cards are good, but having a book is just improves your authority in your field.
And did the book lead to you starting the podcast? Did you want to start the show to promote the book or share what you learned in the book?
No. What happened with me is I was really lucky that the book hit number 1 on Amazon the day it went out. I don't know what happened, why, but I was really lucky. I have been Amazon best-selling author three times now, 2 with anthologies and 1 was my own book. And so people started asking me questions about how do I do it with cerebral palsy. And I said, they opened up the can of worms. I need to share my story publicly. So that's what started the podcast, because I wanted to bring people on like you to help me along in my journey. And since then I got a publishing deal, and I'm working on querying a book to an agent, and I never thought I would be at this stage in my life. And then I'm only 30 years old. I turn 31 June 22nd, and I never thought my story would be so inspirational to you guys. And you guys particularly loved the ins and outs of cerebral palsy, especially handling the job with cerebral palsy and making money. That you guys particularly loved my money story, and my money story is actually getting better over the next couple of weeks, because so that's getting better, and I'm hoping to become financially free in the next 6 years with a trust fund set up by my family and my books. So I'm hoping to become a full-time author in the next 6 years.
Oh, that's a terrific story. Now, you talked about the benefits of the book. What are some of the benefits you've seen from your podcast?
People have stumbled across my podcast just because I am the only woman podcaster with a disability out there. I mean, there's 4 disability-centered podcasts, and I'm the only one who's a woman and who's doing it. And so people love a good inspirational story, and inspiration is still here to stay at.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Well, thanks for answering my questions.
Well, you are so welcome. And you guys, you need to go subscribe to Find Your Dream Job, the big blue cover with the white lettering that said Find Your Dream Job right on it. And you guys are welcome to call in to that podcast or send Max's assistant a email about your job hunting questions. She's very open to emails, and I'm sure she will be very open to your emails. And Max, do you ever do job hunting help for disabled people?
We don't. What we focus on, Win, is providing practical, actionable information about job hunting, and we do that, as we've talked about, through the podcast or books, and we do have some online courses. And the advice, I think, is useful whatever your circumstances, because as we've talked about, so many people think the best way to find work is to look online at job boards, and we think you should do that, but you should do a lot more, and again, whatever your circumstances in life.
And if you are disabled, and I'm giving this number out, and on Medicaid, you have to be careful what you make on Medicaid. It's $1,000 a month in Colorado, and that varies by state. So you do have to be careful what you make on Medicaid. And I just found out yesterday that if you're on Medicaid and you have a trust fund, that Medicaid will go away because it's low income. But if you get a house plan for your employer, that's the best option. There's employee benefits. You just have to look on the rock, and Max List can help you look under those rocks to find your dream job. And for those of you who like audio, go subscribe to Max List and find your dream job anywhere. Is available on Amazon. And you guys go download the first chapter, and then I wish you happy job hunting. I know that's a difficult job in itself, but step away from the community and start asking your network. And I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode of Ask Win with Matt Prichard of Mac List. And I hope you guys share this episode out. Those of you who have jobs, share this episode out with people looking for jobs, no matter what the circumstances, because I'm sure that Mac will be able to help you, on at least his website will, and we'll have all of his information in the show notes. Thanks to you guys.
Win, are you there? Win?